We're fine the whole time. Okay.
Huh.
Let's start over.
Okay.
Very strange.
Oh, you can hear Chris. He can hear you. He can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Are we back?
Chris.
Are we all back?
Are we all
Yeah,
back?
you're all back. What the hell?
That was fucking weird.
Nothing changed on our end. Literally, we didn't do anything.
We literally didn't do anything.
I was watching it, and it suddenly stopped capturing for audio capture, too.
You know, it might have something to do with Sargon, king of Assyria.
Yeah, this is Sargon of Akkad coming after us.
Oh, yeah.
For using
totally.
his likeness
Jeez.
in the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, sincerely sorry.
Yeah.
I
Sorry about that,
have
guys.
no clue what happened,
Yeah,
and
that-
I'll
Although
let you know if I could figure it out, or I guess
there's
I'll
a
watch
little-
the bar.
A little notification popped up for us. Yeah, it says the audio stream's current bit rate.
It's 0
Yeah, it's lower than the recommended bit rate.
of anything.
So
we recommend
explains
that
it.
you open widget. What does open widget do?
To see the whole thing.
Okay. Use an audio stream bit rate of
I like how-
128.
You know, the thing is, Chris sees all this stuff. I don't know why you and I are reading this to him.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean, we can continue the show while he figures this out.
I'm not going to, because there was literally no error on our end.
All right, well,
We've got zero dropped frames or 0 dropped, I guess,
Are
stuff on my end. I'm not sure why it just stopped capturing.
I blame the Bible.
Okay.
you know what? That's a good, yeah, we'll do that.
Anyways,
Where the hell was I? Okay.
why don't you just start over with your explanation of
Okay.
Tartan
Yes.
coming to Ashdod?
In the year Tartan came to Ashdod, when Sargon, king of Assyria, sent him. This notation refers to an actual historical event. In 714 BCE, the coastal city of Ashdod rebelled against Assyria. Sargon dispatched a force against Ashdod under the command of Tartan, and in 711, the rebellion was suppressed, its leader taken prisoner, and the city reduced to subject status. All this leads one to suspect that precisely at this moment, Isaiah undertook the symbolic act spelled out in the following verses, even though it is directed to the fate of Egypt and Nubia, not Ashdod.
All right.
Glad people are hearing us again.
Yeah.
That was annoying.
No, that was
I'm watching this
strange.
bar now like a hawk.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like on it all day, and not on the board, but on OBS. So whatever. There's
Yeah.
too many things to look at.
That was weird.
Hopefully one of these doesn't fail again.
At the same time spake the Lord by Isaiah, the son of Amoz, saying, Go and loose the sackcloth from off thy loins, and, and put off thy shoe from thy foot. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot.
Yeah, this kind of symbolic act performed by the prophet at God's behest occurs a number of times in Hosea and Ezekiel, but this is the sole instance in Isaiah.
You know, it reminds me, I think it was David who was walking around naked.
I don't think he was he fully naked? I don't remember, but he was dancing around the ark.
Well, the people saw his shame.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, they saw his shame.
Right. Yeah. A little-
He was doing what's that called? He was doing the limbo, right? And they
in
got
a skirt.
Yeah, and they got a peek.
Yeah. Okay. And the Lord said, Like as my servant Isaiah hath walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia. So he's doing this for 3 years.
Hold on. And so he did, going naked and barefoot, and the Lord said, As my servant Isaiah has gone naked and barefoot 3 years, it is a sign and portent for Egypt and for Nubia. So this is a sign somehow.
Chris just didn't leave his house for 3 years. It's a sign.
Chris was walking around Milwaukee naked. It's a sign.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
3 years of that. No.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm gonna.
It's not a sign.
I'm gonna
Anyway.
flip through this stuff. There isn't. I mean, chapter 20 is pretty short.
Well, there's an explanatory verse that follows.
Okay.
So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptian prisoners and the Ethiopian captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt.
Okay, so I get the parallelism there, right?
Yeah.
But still, though, that was really weird. So just so shall the king of Assyria drive off the captives and the exiles of Nubia. It should be kept in mind that this was a period of repeated armed confrontation between Assyria and Egypt, with inner divisions in Judah between pro-Egyptian groups and those who sought to pursue accommodation with Assyria.
So, like, the parallel is like the Egyptians and Ethiopians are like a guy walking around barefoot and naked. Right? Which,
I suppose, yeah.
is presumably shameful, right? To the shame of Egypt.
Yeah, the term nakedness of Egypt, the term is both literally is used both literally and figuratively. The exiles stripped off their garments are the exiles stripped off their garments are literally naked, while the land's nakedness, a phrase Joseph uses to his brothers, referring to Egypt, means that which should not be exposed, or in this case, the shame of Egypt.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it's still not quite reasonable at, like, even slightly.
No, definitely not.
Like, can you imagine?
No.
Like, imagine this is true, right? Imagine there's this dude who's a prophet, and, you know, it's like 700 something
Yeah.
BC. You're sitting around, you see this dude wander through your town, like, butt-ass naked, and you're like, why are you naked? And he's like, well, because the Egyptians and Ethiopians are going to be taken prisoner, and they're going to be naked. It's like,
They're like, oh, okay, Isaiah.
okay, dude. Yeah. And they shall be afraid and ashamed of Ethiopia, their expectation, and of Egypt, their glory. And the inhabitant of this isle shall say in that day, Behold!
Behold!
Behold.
Such is our expectation, whither we flee for help and be delivered from the king of Assyria, and how shall we escape?
You know, there's an interesting note here, and a different translation as well in verse 5. And they shall be dismayed and ashamed of Nubia, in which they trusted, and of Egypt, their glory. So in which they trusted, the received text has Mabatam, their look, but the Qumran Isaiah reads Miftaham, their trust. The scribal error was probably influenced by the appearance of Mabat in the next verse.
Yeah. So that's the end. Of
That's the end of the
20.
chapter. Very short chapter. How do you feel? See, okay, so the other, 2 days ago, Chris was like, man, you're just giving all this work to Reuben. This is
It was
rigged
the
against
stereotype.
Reuben.
Yeah, it's about time that I get short chapters.
I mean, historically speaking, all I've mentioned is for sure it's been in Reuben's, lopsided
Yeah, definitely.
disinterest to be
Rigged is rigged.
he's rigged. Yeah,
It's rigged. It's a fixed game.
Yeah, but that was a very short chapter 20. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, except for the, hiccup where you couldn't hear us for whatever fucking reason.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you're enjoying the stream so far, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe. If you haven't shared the stream around, get some people in here. Let's all say hello to each other.
Anyways, before
it, yeah.
you start off this chapter here, I'm going to tell you about it.
Okay, thank you.
So this chapter comprises 4 oracles, 1 through 10, 11 through 12, 13 through 15, and 16 through 17. The originals are lost beyond recovery, and with them, any hope of establishing their historical setting.
Yeah, nothing new about that.
Yeah. So this first oracle is fragmented and obscure. It may be from Isaiah himself, but the present form is evidence of later reworking in the 6th century. Elements of both versions survive in the present confusion. It is suggested that the original was Isaiah's warning not to put any faith in Babylon, which was at the time attempting to revolt against Assyria. He predicted the destruction of Babylon and her gods, and was horrified at the disaster he foresaw for Jerusalem if she put her trust in anyone but the Lord. Sennacherib did destroy both Babylon and its gods in 689 BC.
Thank you, Sennacherib,
Yes.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Either way, chapter 21.
There's a bit more here,
Okay.
which is a bit interesting.
Okay.
Right? The fragments of this oracle enable us to glimpse the 8th century prophet at work. He is the watchman who stands on the tower, and he sees history unfold before him, as does Enoch, Abraham in the Apocalypse of Abraham, and Jesus in Luke 4:5. This temple tradition, seeing all history from beyond time, from the presence of God in the Holy of. This is a temple tradition.
Yeah.
So we're going to run into that.
Yeah, the unfolding of history, especially when you get to all the New Testament stuff, especially in Revelation.
And it's something that's happening in Jubilees,
Yes.
which we're reading.
Yeah, in Jubilees, an entire unfolding of history.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Yeah, Jubilees is the perfect example.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really no other way to put it. It's just the perfect example. I mean, it is you could then just say the Torah is the perfect example, right? But like,
Jubilees
Jubilees is
summarizes
better,
it
yeah.
even faster.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, it gives dudes like 2 lines sometimes.
Yeah, but also it has some of the same features as Chronicles, so it can get really dull.
But Jubilees also, like, it frames it differently than the Torah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So in Jubilees, it's directly someone being revealed, Moses being revealed.
It is a direct thing. It's very clear what who's doing the writing.
Yeah.
At least in scholarly consensus, there's one manuscript that differs. But either way, chapter 21, the oracle concerning the wilderness of the sea.
The desert of the sea. This sounds rather like an oxymoron. And
It also sounds very Exodus-y.
Yeah. Attempts to explain it are uncertain. Perhaps the best scholarly guess is that it refers to a Mesopotamian marsh region, which would have been Assyrian territory at the time of Isaiah or under Babylon later.
Yeah, I'm very unsure about that.
Not that much of an oxymoron when you think about it, as most deserts were, in fact, underwater places before that dried out.
Well,
Almost all deserts.
okay, but
It's not an oxymoron.
well, why
My
would
opinion.
someone would you call a desert the wilderness of the sea, or would you call a sea the wilderness of the sea? Like,
I don't know what the wilderness of the sea is.
then.
Yeah, right.
Eerdmans says that several commentators have recognized that the original danger must have been to Jerusalem threatened from the southwest in the wilderness of the sea. It doesn't say anything more about that.
Okay,
And I told you what
fair enough. Yeah.
Alter said.
As whirlwinds in the Negeb sweep on, it comes from the wilderness, from a terrible land. So this is from the south,
Yeah,
from
this
the
is
southern region, like Arabia or something.
And Alter says, from the desert he comes. So these are invaders. This is an invading force.
Gotcha. Okay, from the south.
Yes.
A stern vision is told to me. The traitor betrays, and the destroyer destroys. Go up, O Elam! Lay siege, O Media! All the sighing she has caused, I bring to an end.
So on Elam and Media, the historical references of this prophecy being unclear, all one can say is that these are two Mesopotamian peoples. Since Media Persia overwhelmed Babylonia, it could be the object of attack is Babylonia. Babylon is in fact mocked on the last line of this poem. And all her groaning I have ended. The her would logically refer to Elam and Media, though those should have a plural referent unless they're viewed collectively.
So if I have another idea about this. So if this was written during if this was exilic, and there was this diaspora. They didn't all have to be in Babylon for it to be part of the exile.
Yeah.
What you could take away from this is because so there was a northern and a southern region, splitting up the nation into two distinct but very related communities.
It's a similar theme across many nations.
It's it's kind of like in the States, like it's all the United States, but there's
or
a
Egypt,
South, same thing.
Israel,
exactly. Like it's all the same thing. I don't know about Canada. It's all just frozen tundra over there. So
that's northern Canada.
So that's all just frozen tundra over there. Completely frozen
area.
tundra. So no people live in Canada. That's a lie.
Oh wow! All right.
They don't have donuts. They just have bagels made of edible oils.
If someone was, I don't know why they would. The one thing that's throwing me off is the Negev reference, right? Because that's directly there, but you could be able to understand it through the lens of someone living in like northern Babylonia and northern Mesopotamia, and I don't. Maybe you would call it Negev just to mean south of where I am, but that's a specific region. I don't know.
I don't think the Negev is necessarily relevant. It's used as an alliteration, or not an alliteration. It's used as a symbol here. Alter says, "As storms sweep the Negev, from the desert he comes."
Okay. So you're right. Then it would make sense that. So maybe this just refers to southern Babylonia.
It could. Also, this bit about all her groaning. Some scholars amend the Hebrew word for groaning to joy. Right? So
those are very different.
All her joy I have ended.
Very different.
Very different.
Yeah. Therefore, my loins. Thank you. Similar words. Therefore, my loins are filled with anguish. Pangs have seized me, like the pangs of a woman in labor. There it is again.
Also,
we've seen that before.
Right,
I'm pretty sure we've covered like the whole birth pangs thing.
Mm-hmm. But earlier on, we have the traitor betrays, the despoiler despoils.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a betraying betrayer and destroying destroyer. They are moving like a wind from the desert. The allusion here could be to the desert demons who appear in Ugaritic mythology as the devourers, and in Hebrew tradition as the consuming wrath of the Lord. Habakkuk, in his vision, sees the Lord advancing from the desert with demonic attendants, plague and pestilence, coming to take vengeance on the enemies of his people and the anointed ones. The opacity and ambiguity of such oracles is due in part to their cultic setting, but it is clear that temple tradition saw evil forces as a constant threat to the whole created order.
I don't know if I'd call the stuff in Habakkuk demonic forces, honestly.
I don't know.
I mean, I've read the portion he's talking about. In fact, I actually cover that a little bit in my upcoming video on it's honestly just on heavenly horsemen as a general topic. Talking about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Very classic. Lots
about
of
the Maccabees horsemen.
That too. That's covered in there. There's going to be a little bit when we get to Zechariah and to Jeremiah. There's going to be some stuff. So there's actually some very interesting stuff on heavenly horsemen within Jewish tradition. So stay tuned for that.
But I am aware of these like desert demons, right? And,
yeah,
and you
Lilith
think of him like a dust devil, right?
Well, you could think of it that way, but Lilith, for example, was one of these, or Lilitu, Lilu, whatever you went by, if it was Assyrian or Babylonian or what have you, whichever name it went by, that was a class of demons, and they lived in the desert. So, maybe it could be attributed to, if you're in the desert and if you're lacking water or something,
Mm-hmm.
you could start to hallucinate.
I'm sure you could,
Yeah.
but there's also like literally like dust devils. Right?
Yeah, that too.
So I could see people, and like the language that they use is a storm sweeping the Negev, and from the desert,
Yeah.
this thing comes.
Maybe just an actual storm.
Yeah, it could be a storm. And the storms are relevant because they're like the power of gods, right?
Yeah.
So like Baal has his storms and Yahweh
Yeah.
storms. El. Fucking El.
Either way, where was I? Right, all this labor stuff. I am bowed down so that I cannot hear. I am dismayed so that I cannot see. My heart staggers. Horror has appalled me. The twilight I longed for has been turned for me into trembling.
My evening of revels has turned to terror.
That sucks, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. You thought you were going to party?
No.
You're not going to party.
They prepare the table. They spread the rugs. They eat. They drink. Arise, O princes! Oil the shield.
This is different.
Oil the shield. Also, yeah, there's a note here on rugs. I'm guess like
from laid the table to let the watchman watch, from eat and drink to rise commander, burn a shield with oil.
yeah, that is the other one. They spread, they set the watchman. Yeah, that's the other translation there.
So yeah, there's this watchman language that pops up here. I think there's something on it. I might have mentioned it already.
Yeah, you did
Yeah,
mention
the watchman who stands on the tower, just as in Hab 2:1 and 1Q
Okay.
Isaiah
Okay.
A.
Okay. So yeah, I don't know what's an altar doesn't have a note for that.
No, he. So in the next verse it says, why don't you read the next verse?
Okay. For thus the Lord said to me, "Go set a watchman. Let him announce what he sees."
So some interpreters take the watchman as a figure for the prophet. This could easily be an actual watchman. And yeah, I found the bit for
Okay.
altar. So for let the watchman watch. The Hebrew lacks both from and to. This translation follows the proposal of the New Jewish Publication Society version. Yeah, that doesn't say much. The shields with oil. The shields were leather, so you had oil. Makes
Sure.
it slippery, right? But yeah, no, it doesn't say anything else about this watchman.
Well, then,
Well, presumably, the watchman is Isaiah, right? It's
could be, yeah.
it's a guy who's delivering news from on high, right? Which is what a watchman does. I mean, in the physical sense, they
Right.
go up a watchtower, they deliver news that they see from a high up place.
Yes, and that actually does make sense if we keep on reading here. So yeah, go set a watchman. Actually, hold on, I'm gonna be God here. This is God's voice.
Mm-hmm.
God himself speaking. Go set a watchman. Let him announce what he sees. When he sees riders, horsemen in pairs, riders on donkeys, riders on camels, let him listen diligently, very diligently. Then he who saw cried out. And here's the watchman speaking now.
Mm-hmm.
Upon a watchtower I stand, O Lord, continually by day, and at my post I am stationed whole nights. And behold!
Behold!
Here come the riders, horsemen in pairs. And he answered, Fallen, fallen is Babylon, and all the carved images of her gods. He has shattered to the ground. Oh, my threshold. Oh, my threshed and winnowed one. What I have heard from the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, I announce to you.
So my threshing and what falls on the granary floor. The line is enigmatic, but because threshing is separating the grain from the chaff are often used in biblical poetry as a metaphor for the destruction of the wicked, that may be the intention here. What I heard from the Lord, that's not part of the poem. It functions as an epilogue to that poem. And more interestingly, up here where it says in verse 8, and the seer shall call out, on the master's lookout, I stand perpetually day by day.
Well, I mean, a seer would...
But this seer, the received text reads, and he shall call out a lion. This is problematic.
Are you sure it's not loin?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
just making
A
sure.
lion. This is problematic if the danger is cavalry. The Qumran Isaiah has, instead of lion, Arya, the seer, Haro'eh, which is merely a reversal of consonants and looks more likely. Yeah. So that was what I had to say about that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess
so. There's a little bit here. In the 6th century, it suggested that Isaiah 21, 1 through 10 was used in a new situation and became an inaccurate description of the fall of Babylon to the Medes and Persians in 539 BC. Inaccurate because Cyrus did not destroy the gods of the conquered city, and sympathy for the endangered city would hardly have applied to Babylon. Later commentators saw the feast in 21:5 as a reference to Belshazzar's feast, described in Daniel 5 as the occasion when Babylon was surprised in the
okay, but
invading Medes.
Daniel was written way later, so either way, here's something else, another oracle.
Yeah, so this one is
The
opaque.
oracle concerning Duma.
Yeah, it refers to Duma, translated in the Greek as Idumea, which is consistent with Seir, a region of Edom.
And also, if you remember when we were covering, was it First or Second Maccabees? I don't remember. But Idumea was that one of the places they were taking?
It was one of the places, I think it was mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forget what the Idumeans were doing in Maccabees.
Oh man. Were
they attacking or were they getting attacked? I don't remember. Something
Everyone
about
gets attacked and attacks in Maccabees.
I mean,
it's a
that's
war story.
That's
man.
true. The story about a whole revolt.
They burn down buildings with people inside of them. Like, it's nuts.
All right, so here's where stuff gets interesting. One is calling to me from Seir, watchman, what time of the night? Watchman, what time of the night? That's repeated twice.
Yeah, so the Hebrew has a haunting musicality. Shomer ma milai la, shomer ma milel. And understandably, the phrase would often reappear in later Hebrew poetry. But one must concede that this entire short prophecy is far too fragmentary to allow us to guess what it's about. The enigma is compounded by the last line of the prophecy. If you...
We'll get to the last line.
We'll get to that.
But the one thing about one is calling to me from Seir. I would think that would be God, particularly because Thomas Romer, in his book The Invention of God, makes an argument about the origins of Yahweh, and he argues that there are plenty of biblical references, including this one here about coming from Seir. That Yahweh originated in the Negev, close to the Sinai region in that area right there. So that's where Yahweh would have originated. So a reference to one is calling to me from Seir might just be a reference to Yahweh or a reference to a known past about Yahweh's origins.
Mm-hmm. But the only thing that I want to say about the last line of this before we get into it is that the language in it is from their Aramaicisms.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's reflecting a relatively late date. certainly
okay.
well after the 8th century BCE.
Interesting. Either way, the watchman says, "Morning comes, and also the night. If you will inquire, inquire. Come back again." That's the end of the oracle.
Yep, that's the end of the oracle.
All right, then.
Very good.
Here's another oracle, because I don't know what to say about that. Thank you, come again. That's what he said.
No, literally, like,
Yes.
damn, that's useless.
Yep. The oracle concerning Arabia.
Yeah, it's puzzling that the chain of prophecies concerning foreign nations should reach as far to the southeast as Arabia.
Yeah.
The vocalization of the name is peculiar, but Dedan and Tema, about to be mentioned, are definitely in the Arabian Peninsula.
In the thickets in Arabia you will lodge. Oh, caravans of Dedanites.
So it said in the what of Arabia? The thickets?
The thickets in Arabia.
So this is scrubland in altars. He says the Hebrew ya'ar usually means forest, but there are no forests in Arabia.
Damn.
And it here seems likely that what's meant is a region where low bushes grow.
Yeah, that would make sense, especially if you're using the same word, you might be trying to make fun of them. Like, oh, look at these huge forests you have here, and the forests are just these shrubs.
Yeah. Like, oh, the magnificent beaches of Milwaukee.
Yeah, all right.
It's horrible.
It smells terrible.
It always smells like dead fish.
Yeah.
And the river too.
Yep.
Ugh.
Terrible.
God, this place sucks. Okay. Either way. Oh, caravans of Dedanites, to the thirsty bring water. Meet the fugitive with bread. Oh, inhabitants of the land of Tema, for they have fled from the swords, from the drawn sword, from the bent bow, and from the press of battle.
Yeah, the crush of war.
Yeah, this is it's set up in a kind of strange way.
Yeah, the literal sense of the first of the two nouns in the crush of war is heaviness.
No, I mean the thing as a whole.
Yeah, because there's two very short poems.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of messy, I would say. Okay, so in verse 13 and verse 14, or 14a and 14b, they're talking to the Dedanites. And then is the rest then, so 14c through 15, is that talking just about the people of the land of Tema? They fled from swords.
No. The dwellers of the land of Tema greet the fugitives with bread, for they are fugitives before the sword.
Okay.
So the people of Tema are accepting in the Dedanite caravans who are fugitives.
Oh, okay, and they're the ones that got away. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. For thus the Lord said to me, within a year, according to the years of a hired worker, all the glory of Kedar will come to an end, and the remainder of the archers of the mighty men of the sons of Kedar will be few, for the Lord, the God of Israel, has spoken.
Yeah, so this year of a hired worker, earlier it was 3 years like the years of a hired worker. Either there was an alternative for an indentured servant of 1 year contracts, or there was a particular, perhaps especially rigorous, way of computing the year in such arrangements with laborers. For Kedar's glory, roughly, Kedar is a biblical designation for the Arab people.
I think we got a reference to Kedar and their... Did we get a reference to their mighty men in Kings or in Chronicles? I feel like we did.
We might have.
I know we had Kedar in there, and I know we had mighty men, certainly.
Called Qatar as well? Or is it just
I
Qadar?
think there is a place called Qatar.
That's a modern
that's
place.
a modern place.
Qatar.
Yeah.
Qatar.
Okay, yeah, all right. So, no, I don't know about Qadar, I guess.
There's a little bit in Eerdmans here. The oracle concerning Arabia probably refers to refugees fleeing from the troubles in Judah. And verses 16 through 17 seem to be later addition, prophesying judgment on Kedar, a region in Arabia. The Jerusalem Talmud saw verses 13 through 15 fulfilled when, quote, 80,000 young priests, end quote, who had served with Nebuchadnezzar against Jerusalem, presumably the priests of the older faith who had been ousted by Josiah's purges, later settled in Arabia. This would account for the Jewish communities in Arabia and the Second Temple period, and might explain why Paul went to Arabia after his conversion.
Okay. Maybe. Actually, I don't know.
In Galatians.
Yeah. Either way, that is, in fact, the end of chapter 21. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, share the stream around.
Do you hear something?
I do. I thought it was just me shilling, but it's more.
It's someone else.
It's more than that.
It's a holy
What
being
is it?
shilling.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
He's shelling for us.
Thank you, Jesus. That was really kind of you.
Wow.
We might have to read your book.
We're currently in the process of getting to read his book eventually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can hop into chapter 22.
Chapter 22.
Before we do get into the reading, Erdman's starts off with an interesting note here. So 22, 1 through 14 are another scene of demonic warfare. But on this occasion, the prophet warns that the covering of Judah has been taken away. Demonic warfare. I feel like she uses that word loosely.
She's
this is
very
Margaret
into
Baker.
demonic
I know.
warfare.
This is why I'm not the biggest fan of Barker, because she ties in a lot of stuff, pulling from a lot of different places that aren't necessarily connected in the way that she presents them as being connected. And a lot of stuff on demons, very esoteric-y stuff that it honestly does not have the best support for to make a coherent, stable model, honestly.
Well, what in
the cases that she uses
what in the Bible does have support to make a coherent, stable model
of their
anything of cosmology?
If you're
ethics,
talking, it depends on what you're discussing. But if, for example, you want to build a model on about how or why John of Patmos, the author of Revelation, wrote what he wrote, you could probably find a way. You can find enough biblical references that he's making. You can find enough historical references that he's making. You can put this stuff together and build a coherent model.
Good.
Yeah.
But when it comes to books where we have to speculate about the time during which they were written,
there is still some...
And we compare that speculation off of speculation about the time when other books were written.
Yes.
It becomes a very difficult task.
It is a difficult task, yes. But yeah, that's so it's not about, because history isn't the past.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of people get that confused. Yeah, it's just trying to build models that explain the facts. That's all we're trying to do.
Anyways, chapter 22. The burden of the Valley of Vision.
Yeah, a Valley of Vision portent. The Valley of Vision. So attempts to identify this place have been unavailing, though since this prophecy concerns Jerusalem, it seems likely that this is a valley in the vicinity of Jerusalem.
Well, there are mountains, so there are bound to be plenty of valleys.
Yeah, definitely. A valley of vision. Maybe it's a reference to something like
A valley where Isaiah had a vision.
well, yeah, but like maybe it's one that was traditionally seen as a valley to have a lot of visions. Maybe
Well,
where
there
Jacob,
were like temple prophets, right? The prophets aren't just like these dudes who wrote these books, right? They're also dudes who were like around.
right. So prophets, yeah.
So there
There could be a place where prophets specifically went.
or like a common, like a you know, like a pilgrimage, right?
Yeah,
Like,
kind of like that.
could be that, I guess.
Yeah, but apparently, here's something interesting. So the Septuagint of 22:1 has Zion for the Hebrew for vision, suggesting that this was Isaiah's vision of the day of the Lord against Jerusalem, as in Isaiah 3. So
Justin points out it's also referred to as the Valley of Hinnom.
oh yeah, that's I think that's something else. That's Gehenna. That's different. The Valley of Hinnom. I think that's I think it might be the same valley as the Valley of Ben Hinnom, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's a separate valley, one called the Valley of Hinnom and one called the Valley of Ben Hinnom, because that one is called Gehenna sometimes,
Well, isn't Ben just of?
or son, yeah.
Yeah. So like, well, son is like of.
Yeah.
Right.
So the thing about Gehenna is I wouldn't say that they certainly portrayed people as sacrificing there, right? Because that's where sons would go into the fire. Like we had multiple narratives in Kings that told about these evil kings throwing their sons into the fire, right?
Yeah, and it's banned in the Torah.
Exactly. So I don't know if it would necessarily be that same place, is what I'm saying. Because like would they call it the Valley of Visions if they did they think people who were doing these sacrifices were actually doing visions? Although I think Francesca Stavrakopoulos, she actually argues that those kinds of sacrifices didn't even really happen. So I do have to pick up that book. I read like a summary of it.
Well, it's an effective.
The book costs like $200 something,
Yeah,
but
but it's an effective.
It's a good polemic.
Propaganda piece.
yeah, definitely.
Anyways, what aileth thee now that thou art wholly gone up to the housetops? Thou that art full of stirs, a tumultuous city, a joyous city, thy slain men are not slain with the sword, nor dead in battle.
Not gonna lie, KJV kind of sucks. So the first part of that, what is wrong with you that you go up, all of you, to the rooftops? The bustling town is filled with shouts, the reveling city. Your slain are not slain by the sword, and not dead in battle.
Well, I think that the implication is that the people in this city who were killed aren't killed in battle. They're killed by other people in the city.
Sure, that could be it.
Right? It's a city with an incredible crime rate, presumably a not morally good place.
Or if you keep reading, it might be for something else. But the note here on going up to the rooftops, perhaps to conduct parties in the fine weather, is part of reveling of the city, unmindful of the disaster about to overtake it.
Mm-hmm. So kind of like a Sodom kind of
Yeah, a little bit.
idea.
Except they're having a block party.
They're so into their hedonism that they're not aware that they're about to get killed.
Yep, that's a bummer. But let's continue. Maybe we learn a bit more about.
Okay. Yeah. All thy rulers are fled together, and are bound by the archers. All that are found in thee are bound together, which have fled from far. Therefore, said I, look away from me. I will weep bitterly. Labor not to comfort me because of the spoiling of the daughter of my people. For it is a day of trouble.
My people's daughter. So people, city, and land.
The
are
daughters
often-
of Jerusalem, right?
Yeah, here's the full note on that.
Mhm.
People, city, and land are often figured as a daughter or young woman.
Mhm.
So they are talking about that, yeah. But not,
Mhm.
I don't think, was Daughters of Jerusalem the same thing?
That was like the people, or at least the female people,
Yeah.
in general. But no, if they're just so he's like bemoaning that the place that he lives isn't that great. For it is a day of trouble and treading down and of perplexity by the Lord God of hosts in the valley of vision, breaking down the walls and of crying to the mountains. And
So here's something weird. Actually, here's a lot of different stuff. A lot of differences that Alter points out, and I hope he expands on that. I also have the ESV, obviously.
Mhm.
So after for the Master Lord of Armies, you have that right.
Mhm.
So go
Lord of hosts.
line by line. Okay, Lord of Hosts, same thing.
Lord God of hosts.
In the Valley of Vision, Kir crashes about.
Well, this follows into verse 6. It says, And Elam bare the quiver with chariots of men and horsemen, and Kir uncovered the shield.
Oh, it doesn't end there, man. It doesn't end there.
Oh.
Yeah, here. Okay. In the Valley of Vision, Kir crashes about, and that's not what you had.
No.
And then, and Shoah on the mountain. And that's not what you had. And
No.
then it goes into similar stuff with about Elam. But either way, Kir crashes about. This is, again, sound play in the Hebrew. Kir Mekarar. Kir, Shoah, and Elam are far to the east, and perhaps they are imagined, whether accurately or not, as contingents in the attacking Assyrian army.
Go to the ESV. What does it say in
Okay,
there?
I got it. So that's verse 5 for everyone
Verse
that's following along here. Just check your translations.
Yeah, so the Jewish Publication Society's version says, For it is a day of trouble and of trampling and of perplexity from the Lord, the God of hosts, in the valley of vision, Kir shouting, and Shoah at the mount.
You know, here, this is actually in a different order in the ESV. For the Lord God of hosts has a day of tumult and trampling, and confusion in the valley of vision, a battering down of walls and a shouting to the mountains.
What the hell is going on here?
I don't know.
Is there no commentary on it?
So while everyone's checking their respective translations, I am going to look specifically for this verse.
Okay.
And that was verse 5.
Yeah, verse 5.
Although it is a little bit different, right? Because it's the Masoretic. I don't know. Or maybe this one isn't. I don't think this one is actually different at all.
Well, Alter uses a different one too.
Yeah, I don't think this one's actually different. I think it's all the same. Either way, there isn't really much about translation differences in here. There isn't really anything about translation differences on that verse in here. There is a little bit about the surrounding verses.
Well,
so I can get into that. So the text of 22:3 is unclear, but a reconstruction from other ancient versions suggests that the gist as your rulers fled, they were stubborn and revolted. The Annals of Sennacherib say that Hezekiah's elite troops deserted him in 701 BCE. Information which could identify this oracle as Isaiah's reaction to the unseemly feasting after the great deliverance from the Assyrian army. Kir cannot be identified with certainty. Elam lay to the east of Babylon. It is not easy to find a time in Judah's history when Elam would literally have been fighting against Jerusalem. Isaiah's characteristic wordplay probably accounts for his choice of names. The host of Elam and Kir could well conceal a host of heavenly beings known as gods and watching angels. The Hebrew words are very similar, and their tasks of bearing the quiver and uncovering the shield are similar to the Hebrew for taking away exorcists and destroying soothsayers. So I think the general idea about this is that, you know what? Maybe I was totally spot on. I'm not going to spoil the conclusions of my upcoming video, but maybe I was spot on. In that there was a lot of I don't know what its actual name is, but you know how, like, if I say, like, yeah, you have a nice fucking bracelet.
Oh, yeah.
But mine's better, and then I show you like this extravagant one.
One up.
Yeah, exactly. They're one-upping them. So I think that's that is the thing that might be going on here in a way. Some one-upmanship.
Could be.
The underlying message.
Should I continue?
Yeah, continue. There's nothing on that verse. I don't know why it's why it's translated in so many different ways. I don't know what text each of them are using. Yeah, I don't know.
Ridiculous. And it shall come to pass that thy choicest valleys shall be full of chariots, and the horsemen shall set themselves in array at the gate. So they'll have a strong army there.
Yeah.
And he discovered the coverings of Judah, and thou didst look in that day to the armor of the house of the forest.
You know,
Lebanon?
Yours says he a lot. Right?
And he discovered it's not capitalized, though. This isn't God discovered.
Right, but it still says that.
Yeah.
This one's very different. It doesn't have that pronoun in here. So it's, so starting at verse 7. And your choicest valleys were filled with chariots, and the horsemen pressed hard against the gates, and the cover of Judah was exposed. And you looked on that day to the weapon store of the forest house.
Yeah, the forest house. So what is the forest house?
The forest house was a cedar-paneled armory within the palace. See 1 Kings 7:2-5, where it is called the Lebanon forest house.
Okay.
Yeah, the weapons kept there appear to have been ornamental, but in the description of the siege, here they are taken up for use in combat.
Okay, so they're really screwed, so they're even using ornamental weapons.
Yeah, all the stuff that's used for show, they got to use it now.
Whip out those fake elvish daggers from the museums.
Yeah, what about them?
What about them?
I don't know. Skyrim. People might get that.
Okay. Wonderful. Ye have seen also the breaches of the city of David, that they are many, and ye gathered together the waters of the lower pool.
Yeah, the waters of the lower pool. Under siege, maintaining a source of water was vital for survival. No shit. A tunnel was built, many still think, by Hezekiah, king at the time, to bring in the water of the Siloam Brook into the city. Yeah, that's we have found evidence for that.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And ye have numbered the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses have ye broken down to fortify the wall. Ye made also a ditch between the two walls for the water of the old pool. But ye have not looked unto the maker thereof, neither had respect unto him that fashioned it long ago. This is God they're referring to. And in that day did the Lord God of hosts call to weeping and to mourning and to baldness and to girding with sackcloth, and beheld joy and gladness, slaying oxen and killing sheep, eating flesh and drinking wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die.
Oh, that was nice. That was a nice little rhyme there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cute. I'm gonna get that tattooed on me. So, yeah, so this crime. Yeah, you know what? It still kind of rhymes in here. But either way, so here's the shaved heads bit. We've run across that before.
Yeah.
Whether or not the Israelites made this pagan gesture of mourning part of their own practice, it is an inseparable part of the poetic language of mourning. Just like the ripping of renting your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was revealed in mine ears by the Lord of hosts, Surely this iniquity shall not be purged from you till ye die, saith the Lord God of hosts. Thus saith the Lord God of hosts, Go, get thee unto this treasurer, even unto Shebna,
Yeah, so this
which is over the house, and say what you're going to say.
okay.
That was the end of the verse.
Gotcha. I can't talk. This next section here, Isaiah 22:15 through 25 is probably just a glimpse of palace politics. Yeah, so get ready for that. Shebna there.
Yeah.
Let's see, where was that? That was verse 15. So yeah, these words signal the beginning of a new prophecy directed to Shebna, a high palace official, quote, who is over the house, that is, the house of the king or the palace. Shebna appears in the narrative of the siege in 2 Kings 19. However, there he is assigned a different title.
What hast thou here? And whom hast thou here? That thou hast hewed thee out of a sepulchre here?
This is horrible.
Yeah, it is. As he that heweth him out of a sepulchre on a high rock, and that graveth a habitation for himself in a rock.
Do you want that in English?
Yes.
Okay. What have you here, and whom have you here, that you hewed yourself here a tomb? Who hews a tomb on high, carves into the cliff an abode for himself? Tombs for the aristocracy were typically in niches or caves. That's the only note there. But that is in English. You're welcome.
You made a tomb? Who makes a tomb?
In this specific place, in a cliff.
Yeah, because then they have to carry your body all the way up the cliff. It's a big pain. Behold!
Behold!
The Lord will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of thy Lord's house.
He shall surely wind you round like a turban, away to a spacious land.
Okay.
Yeah, that really helped.
I wind you right round, like a turban, baby, right round.
To a what land?
Spacious land.
Spacious land?
Yeah.
It's going to whip you into space.
A large country.
So the translation there, wind you round like a turban, that's good. We got to make that parody. Others understand this as fling like a ball, but the Hebrew verb tesnef clearly means to wind round.
Speaking of a ball.
There's a ball.
There's a ball. He's accepting donations right now. If we get to $666 in that donation drive, we will be getting a thetan meter. We'll be seeing who's the most clear, and we will be taking it apart and, mocking Scientology relentlessly.
It'll be fun, and
Yep.
we'll see if we can mess around with it.
Yep.
Fudge the results.
Fudge the results. Tell all the Scientologists how their machine actually works.
Yeah, but the Hebrew verb tesnef clearly means to wind round, not to fling, and the end of the previous line with the verb to wrap supports the sense of a garment. In light of this context, the translation of verse 17 adopts a proposed emendation of the Masoretic gever, man, which appears after shakes. Which appears after shakes to begged or beged, garment. Yeah.
All right. And I will drive thee from thy station, and from thy state shall he pull thee down, and it shall come to pass in that day that I will call my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with thy robe, and strengthen him with thy girdle, and I will commit thy government into his hand, and he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and to the house of Judah. And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulders, So that
these ancient keys were very large and usually wooden. So placing a key on a shoulder, perhaps held by a strap, would make sense.
So he shall open, and none shall shut, and he shall shut, and none shall open.
Shut up, Ruben. Spider the Ateo, thank you for the $4.99.
Thank you, Spider the Ateo. Once we reach that 666 goal, it'll be thanks to you.
Yeah, mostly so far.
Exactly. Be thanks to all of you wonderful viewers.
Yes.
But mostly him.
And we will take down Scientology. I mean, it's already been taken down.
I mean, yeah, what are they doing?
Yeah, they might sue us, right?
Whoop-de-doo.
They have a long history of suing people who say anything about them.
Yep.
And I will fasten him as a nail in a sure place, and he shall be for a glorious throne to his father's house. And they shall hang upon him all the glory of his father's house, the offspring and the issue, all vessels of small quantity, from the vessels of cups, even to the vessels of flagons. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts.
I have a little bit different translation here for the last verse you read. And they shall hang upon him all the honor of his father's house, the offspring and the sprouts, all the smallest vessels, from the basins to every kind of bowl.
So these are the belongings, in general. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, shall the nail that is fastened in the sure place be removed and cut down and fall, and the burden that was upon it shall be cut off, for the Lord hath spoken it.
So, here's something you might want to note. So, the peg affixed in a solid place shall give way. This entire verse is a blatant contradiction of the glowing prophecy concerning Eliakim's displacement of Shebna, and one must conclude that a later editor, aware of the disaster that had befallen Eliakim, added these dire words.
Wow.
Yeah, so completely the opposite.
Complete opposite.
Textual history is a cruel mistress.
Yep.
Yeah. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, share it around, get some people in here.
Check out our Amazon wish list.
Other stuff. Yeah, we got plenty of stuff. All right, but let's hop into the last chapter of the day, shall we?
Chapter 23.
Yep, good old.
This is an oracle against Tyre, Tyre. 23, 1 through 12, and 14 are poorly preserved. Sennacherib attacked the coastal cities in 705 to 701 BCE. They don't say BCE. Which could have prompted the oracle. The ideas in the language, however, are different from Isaiah's style elsewhere, and this has led to the suggestion that the oracle comes from a later period, perhaps the reign of Esarhaddon, 681 to 669 BC. Who also attacked Phoenicia. Sidon was destroyed in 678 BC, and since the words for Tyre and Sidon in Hebrew are similar and easily confused, the original subject may have been Sidon. Sidon was also captured by the Persians in 343 BC, and Tyre was subjected to siege by Alexander the Great in 332 BC. All these have been proposed as occasions for the oracle. Doubtless, it was used and reused for each of them.
One thing I want to note about Esarhaddon. In Romer's book, the so-called Deuteronomistic history, he does a really good comparison between the treaties of Esarhaddon and the laws in Deuteronomy and Leviticus and all that stuff. And oh boy, are they very similar. So I think people, if you're interested in that kind of study, Thomas Romer's The So-Called Deuteronomistic History. It's a pretty short read, and it's pretty simple for. It's good for both the scholarly and the layperson. It's just really well written, I think.
I was lame, guys.
And
Nothing.
And if you enjoy the Deuteronomistic history, you can check out our Deuteronomistic history review.
You can do that if you want to sit there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yes.
Have fun.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed having that going that whole
We
time.
had so much fun doing that.
Yep, we did. Let's hop into the final chapter for the day, chapter 23.
Yep.
The Oracle Concerning Tyre. Wail, O ships of Tarshish, which we have seen before.
Yes.
The ships of Tarshish.
So these ships of Tarshish, there's a note here.
Didn't they use the ships of Tarshish to get gold of Ophir?
I think.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Maybe. Those are pretty good memes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Good biblical memes. The piece begins and ends with the line, "Wail, O ships of Tarshish," a reference to the Phoenicians' power as a sea trading nation. Tarshish is usually located in southern Spain. There are several places where 1Q Isaiah A has clearer text, which has been adopted by the NRSV. And this is in verse 2 and verse 9. They give examples, but this occurs throughout.
Okay. For Tyre is laid waste without house or harbor. From the land of Cyprus it is revealed to them.
So, when they came from the land of Kittim, it was revealed to them. Some scholars identify the land of Kittim with Cyprus, although that is not entirely certain. In any case, the Phoenicians were great seafaring merchants, as the poem repeatedly reminds us. What's envisioned here is that one such party of merchants, on their return from a Mediterranean voyage, discover that their city has been devastated.
Ah, no. Be still, O inhabitants of the coast. The merchants of Sidon who crossed the sea have filled you. And on many waters your revenue was the grain of Shihor.
So the
Is there something bad about the grain of Shihor?
well, the be still at the beginning there.
Yeah.
Many interpreters argue that the meaning of the verb is moan or howl, in consonance with wail at the beginning of the first line of the poem.
That would make sense.
A supposed Akkadian cognate is cited as evidence, but the word domu everywhere else means to be still or silent. And there's no reason that the poet could not have imagined two antithetical responses to disaster, wailing and then dumbfounded silence.
Yeah.
But the Sihor, it goes on to talk about the Nile. So both names refer to the same river. The second might be an editorial gloss on the first, or a poetic opposition.
So, and on many waters, your revenue was the grain of Shihor, the harvest of the Nile. Gotcha. You were the merchant of the nations. So they were trading between all the nations. They were helping everybody. Trade bad.
So bad. Ooh. Traitor man.
Be
bad.
ashamed, O Sidon, for the sea has spoken, the stronghold of the sea, saying, I have neither labored nor given birth. I have neither reared young men nor brought up young women.
The point of this speech is not entirely clear, but since in prophecies of destruction, young men, bahurim, and virgins, betulot, are often said to be killed, they being the icons of a people's pride and joy. What the sea may be saying is, I had no part in bringing these young men and women into the world and rearing them, so if they have perished, it's not my affair.
Okay, I get that. When the report comes to Egypt, they will be in anguish over the report about Tyre. Cross over to Tarshish. Wail, O inhabitants of the coast. Is this your exultant city whose origin is from days of old, whose feet carried her to settle far away?
Is this your reveling one from days of yore, her ancient past, whose feet led her to sojourn away? Tarshish, verse 6, would have been one of the distant Mediterranean ports to the west plied by Phoenician ships. The Phoenicians, in fact, were great colonizers, establishing major centers in North Africa and as far away as Spain.
Yeah, so now that they're getting kind of ransacked,
Yeah.
but
these
they're like mocking.
Yeah, they're mocking the Phoenicians. Oh, like, oh, wow, this is what you left your lands for and settled far away. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who has purposed this against Tyre, the bestower of crowns, whose merchants were princes, whose traders were the honored of the earth, the bestower of crowns.
Alter translates it as crowned Tyre, but notes the Hebrew ma'atira or atira, ma'atira is more literally crown wearing. So it's crown wearing Tyre. So like you could imagine.
Oh, probably a vassal state or something.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, they were a vassal state, especially of Assyria. In fact, Assyria kind of went but it sectioned places off like in pretty distinct blocks, actually.
Yeah.
Like as time went on.
They're also mocking it here, right? They say against the crown Tyre, whose traders or nobles or merchants, notables of the land, right? Because within the society in Israel and Judah, traders hold a completely different role in their social function than nobility.
Yeah.
So they're mocking their even social foundation.
Yeah. And of course, we've seen that kind of thing about the fall of society in a whole bunch of texts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, when things start to fall, the entire social structure changes, and then even slaves will be kings. And
Yeah,
that kind of flip. Either way, the Lord of hosts has purposed it to defile the pompous pride of all glory, to dishonor all the honored of the earth. Cross over your land like the Nile, O daughter of Tarshish. There is no restraint anymore.
This might mean just as the Nile runs through all of Egypt, Tyre is enjoined to pass through all her land.
Oh, okay.
Also, there's no note on it, but in verse 4, they have this little speech from the sea.
Yeah.
It struck me as very Kohelet-like.
Yeah, a little bit. I could see that.
Yeah, where it's
Like, why should I care?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Those aren't my kids.
I had nothing to do with them. Fuck them.
Which is also very, like, stoic. You have, like, Epictetus, who's like, oh, well, I don't remember if it's exactly like this. He says, like, oh, if you break your favorite cup, just remember that it's cups in general that you enjoy and not that cup. And if your child dies or your wife dies, just remember it's the children in general that it was something ridiculous like that.
Okay. So his whole thing was, from what I gather, was basically if something bad happens, just pretend it's not so bad and it won't be so bad.
Well, because, you're
there's
only
plenty of
really
those.
fond of women in general. If your wife you're sad
your
because
wife.
there's a woman who's died, right?
Yeah.
No. I don't think it was exactly like that, but it was pretty close. So yeah.
Yeah, it's basically just, I don't know. Is it like just stop caring about things that you once cared about?
Oh yeah, because it's not that particular instance that you actually care about.
care about
Gotcha,
the generic
okay.
thing, not the specific instance. That's what he's arguing,
gotcha.
I guess.
The specific instance.
Yeah,
Because
because
that's not the thing.
like your coffee mug is an instance of a coffee mug. Any given coffee mug can like serve the same function.
Yes.
Right? So if you drop a coffee mug and break it, it might be your favorite coffee mug, but you can get a new coffee mug.
Right.
Not my favorite 100% unique, irreplaceable Thomas Jefferson original coffee mug.
Oh no!
Hey, did you get your hands on my 100% authentic original Thomas Jefferson coffee mug?
Irreplaceable coffee mug?
Yeah.
Yes, I did, and it's broken.
Damn.
Oof! I replaced it.
Oh, thank you. I'll be okay then. Either way, he has stretched out his hand over the sea. He has shaken the kingdoms. The Lord has given command concerning Canaan to destroy its strongholds.
Canaan. This reference may seem anomalous, but there's no textual warrant for changing it to the name of one of the Phoenician cities. It may simply be the case that the poet viewed the coastal stretch from Canaan north into Phoenicia as a single continuum. notion echoed in the modern scholarly usage that speaks of Syrio-Canaanite culture.
Yes, because Canaan wasn't like a state all by itself. Like that is more of a modern, or more of a, I should say, more of a biblical definition for it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what it was. Just understanding what Canaan is, what the Canaanite region was, it's a little fuzzier than that. Actually, the first few chapters of Religious Diversity in Israel and Judah, that's what it's called. The editor is Francesca Stavrakopoulou, and the first few chapters are devoted to discussing Canaanite culture and how it's really poorly portrayed in the Bible, and how it doesn't quite match up with what we have found, and how talking about a land of Canaan is kind of misleading.
Also, I want to note that verse 10 is apparently obscure. It could be translated as "Till your land, daughters of Tarshish, for there is no more harbor."
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's really different.
Yeah.
Either way. So verse 12. And he said, "You will no more exult, you, oh, oppressed virgin daughter of Sidon. Arise, cross over to Cyprus."
Kitten.
Fair enough.
Though Eerdmans notes that Tyre had strong links with Cyprus. Her king fled there in 701 BC.
Even there you will have no rest. Behold!
Behold.
The land of the Chaldeans.
Yes, the switch of viewpoint from Mesopotamia is intended to offer an object lesson to Sidon and Tyre. Just as the Chaldeans became a people that is no more, so now will be the fate of the Phoenicians. It must be said.
Yeah, I should know. I should finish the verse here.
Finish the verse.
Yeah. Behold the land of the Chaldeans. This is the people that was not. Assyria destined it for wild beasts. They erected their siege towers. They stripped her palaces bare. They made her a ruin.
Yeah, so it must be said that scholarly attempts to tie in this prophecy of the destruction of Tyre and Sidon with a particular historical event have not been convincing. And it could be that this is all a kind of prophetic fantasy rather than a reporting of an event.
I mean, that does happen. There's the note here on this is the people that was not. The note is, or that has become nothing. So essentially saying the same thing.
Now, there's some interesting bits in these next two verses.
Great.
Well, the rest of the verses, actually.
Wail, O ships of Tarshish, for your stronghold is laid waste. In that day, Tyre will be forgotten for 70 years, like the days of one king. That's a good time to be king. At the end of 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the song of the prostitute.
The song about the whore. This is a rare moment when the prophet incorporates a piece of popular culture of his times into the text. Though from the two lines quoted, it's difficult to recover the narrative content of the song.
They had a CeeLo Green back then. Wow.
Yeah. Eerdmans text says that this is later edition. These are probably later
And the reference there to 70 years, although it's not exact, I think that would be probably referring to the exile, because that lasted for about 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's often noted as being about 70. Basically, it's close enough to 70 that everyone was calling it 70.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's a reference to that, or if it's a reference to something else, or if they're just, or if they're saying it means two things.
1.5 jubilees.
So let's hear this song about the whore.
It's not even 1.5 jubilees.
It's
more than the 1.5 jubilees.
Oh.
It's not quite 2 jubilees.
No,
That's
quite.
49 years, right?
Yeah.
70 years.
That's not
No.
That 49 plus 49 is not 70, Chris.
No, it's close to 50. Never mind. It's way higher than that.
All right. Anyways, where
Verse
were
16,
we?
you're
Thank
about
you.
to sing the song about the whore.
Oh, great! I get to sing a song about a whore. Okay.
Sing it.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.5 jubilees.
Take a harp, go about the city, O forgotten prostitute. Make sweet melody, sing many songs, that you may be remembered.
So the implication seems to be that she's a whore who has long been neglected by her clients, perhaps because she's past her prime. In the second half of that verse, the image is clearly plaintive. The forgotten whore is enjoined to play the lyre and sing songs, perhaps love songs, that will help her recall the days gone by when she was much sought after.
Yeah. They sing many songs that you may be remembered. At the end of 70 years, the Lord will visit Tyre, and she will return to her wages and will prostitute herself with all the kingdoms of the world on the face of the earth.
This is translated much better here. It says,
Okay.
and she shall go back to her whore's pay and go whoring with all the kingdoms of the world on the face of the earth.
That is a better translation.
Yeah, though, despite most efforts on her whore's pay to Bowdlerize this as trade or free, the unambiguous meaning of the Hebrew etnon is payment received by a prostitute for her sexual services. The Israelites, a nation of farmers and pastoralists in the earlier biblical period, viewed the trade-based economy of their northern neighbors as an activity of shady dealing, a kind of prostitution. Tyre is imagined after a canonical period of 7 years following her destruction, renewing her former trade ties, returning to her old whoring ways.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was a song or a proverb or what it was, but there was a note about, there was something about it basically amounting to selling out. Was that in Ben Sira maybe? The whole trading thing?
There were a lot of things about trading in Ben Sira, so it might have been.
Could have been Psalms.
Could have been Psalm.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, there's. Yeah. Pick your wisdom literature.
Yeah.
Any wisdom literature.
Hey, that's a great name for a game show.
Yeah.
Sure, pick your wisdom literature. I don't know how we play it, but
Her merchandise and her wages will be holy to the Lord. It will not be stored or hoarded, but her merchandise will supply abundant food and fine clothing for those who dwell before the Lord. Okay, so this is more of the more temple stuff.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
how this will come about is in no way explained. Somehow, the again prosperous Tyre will funnel her profits to Judah, enabling a life of luxury to the people dwelling in the Lord's presence, the sense of before the Lord, which is to say in the vicinity of the Jerusalem temple.
Well, Tyre wasn't really that far in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't really that far. So if you were like, super into Judah, you could be like, yeah, Judah's going to win it all. We're going to, take over all the other parts too. There won't really need to be an Israel and Judah thing anymore. I mean, there wouldn't have been at this time anyways. It would have been completely dispersed. It wouldn't have been meaningful is what I'm trying to say.
Well, Eerdmans notes that this is a popular theme. Says the theme was popular at the time of the return from Babylon, that the wealth of the nations would flow into the impoverished new temple state in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I guess kind of setting up a new heaven kind of thing. New Jerusalem. Pops up a whole bunch in apocalyptic literature.
Yeah.
Either way.
if you enjoyed the stream today, give us a like, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Check out our Amazon wish list. Check out our Teespring.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff on our Amazon wish list. A lot of books that you might really enjoy seeing us read and talk about and use as sources. You won't see us read them, actually. That'd be weird. But
you might if we're on here.
Yeah, that is accurate.
But
behold.
No.
Those are there, yeah.
That was there.
You all right there? Yeah. Okay, I guess he's just... All right. Anyways, Sorry about that. I know a very disgusting human being was on screen just now for a bit there. We apologize for the inconvenience and for everyone's eyes bleeding out.
Yep. We're going to build a wall and Tira's going to pay for it.
Lots of cool stuff on the wish list. Let's see what else. What else we got? We have Patreon. Lots of cool stuff on Patreon. You could be on this show. You could you get our books. You could see all of our video scripts.
You could be on this show or Friday's show, or when we start doing the
hangouts,
Saturday show. You could do hangouts. It's all listed on the Patreon.
Lots of cool stuff. Let's see what else we got. Teespring. Oh, that's right. $10 enters you into the monthly T-shirt giveaway.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we named everything except for the things that you can do for free, which is check out our social media links in description.
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter. Completely free to follow us there.
No Instagram though.
No, I mean I have an Instagram, but it's not like
you could follow Lawrence on Instagram.
You could. I guess you could follow me on Instagram. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I barely use it.
Yep.
But okay.
Anyways, that's the end of the show.
That's the end of the show.
So we're going to see you on Friday and Sunday.
Get a new thing, Chris. This is absolutely a